All right, welcome to another episode of NFL Outdated Cover 2 series. This episode, we are talking about the Minnesota Vikings, and I am joined by Viking Dave, host of the Once Upon a Sunday Fantasy Football Podcast. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Absolutely. And it is the offseason NFL, but there are always things to talk about in the NFL, especially, where they're having their annual meetings and all of that and all the free agent signings. And I guess first of all, um tell tell us a little bit about your podcast and in how you kind of started into doing that.
So I know you had Josh on a few weeks ago. He's one of the co-hosts. We've been friends like just for a really long time. I've been playing fantasy football since I was like 13 years old, and I've just always been good at it. I won my very first league, and football is like my number one passion. So it's easy for like it's not even like work for me. It's just easy. I've always
Mhm.
been good at it, and we talked for years about doing a podcast and we should do one. We should do one. You know how it is. You probably did the same thing. And finally,
Mhm.
we're just like, let's just do it. So we
Mhm.
we got the stuff and we started, and we just like to talk a bunch of crap to each other and have fun and try to help people out. We don't have a huge following, but we do it for fun, and to me, that's all I really care about. It's just having fun, talking trash. But yeah. So that's pretty much it. We've been doing it for I think this will be our third. I think the third season, maybe fourth. I've
Mhm.
lost count. But we have fun with it, so that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's a big thing. And it's funny. I mean, like I'm doing. I guess in the past I've done 10 fantasy football leagues, and some people are like, "Oh, that's a lot." But then I've talked to other people; they're like into 30. I mean, how many you
Oh yeah,
are you into?
probably 20-ish, somewhere
Oh
in it,
wow, yeah,
give or take. And then I'll always say like I'm gonna drop a few, and then I'll drop one or two, and then I'll add three or four or five more. So
yeah.
it's a vicious cycle. Someone asked me to be in the league, and I'm like, sure, why not? So
Hmm.
it's I'm like I said, the only part that I don't like to do is waivers. When you have 10 or 12
Mm,
or 15 or 20 leagues, it's
hmm.
like Tuesday night you're like, God, this takes forever. But other than
Hmm.
that, it's easy for me, so it's fun.
What platforms do you usually use?
So for like some of my like local leagues with my friends and buddies, we'll just use Yahoo.
Mm,
The dynasty leagues I'm in, we use My Fantasy League, and then there's a couple that are on Sleeper. I'm not a big Sleeper fan. I know a lot of people
mm,
are, but
mhm.
I personally like My Fantasy League better. But those are pretty much the main ones.
Yeah, in the last couple years, I've done videos, just kind of going through the process of, and that's how I started podcasting. Going through the process of drafting and each different kind of platform, and I wasn't necessarily a fan of Yahoo. Sleeper, I like, and I've kind of gotten used to doing ESPN. I love ESPN.
Mhm.
I know a lot of people don't, but I definitely try to stay away from NFL.com. That one is probably the worst.
So I'm not a big fan of ESPN. I've always like every
Hmm.
year someone will have it on there and I'll do it. But NFL.com I haven't played on in years, but the last time I did, it was terrible. I
Hmm.
hated it and I would never do it again. So I don't even know if it's changed. I
It's
haven't gone back to it.
It hasn't
Yeah.
gotten any better. You talk about waivers, it's, the one of the worst. It's so crazy that that's for the
The
flagship.
main one. Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
How are they so bad? It
And
should be the
even
best one.
it should be. And even one of the first weeks of the season, it just crashed, so it's
Really?
like, yeah. So that's interesting, and I don't know. You got to love fantasy football regardless,
I
and
love it.
I love talking about it. Sounds like obviously you guys have the podcast. But tonight I wanted to talk more about the Vikings and with your fandom. How long have you been a fan of the Vikings?
I mean, since I was a kid,
Mhm.
back when I don't know how old you are, but back I'm 41. So back when I was a kid, there was no Sunday ticket, and
Mhm.
you had to. I live in Tampa, so we was watching Bucks games, but they were bad. So
Mhm.
if they weren't on, then we'd watch whatever the local game was. But it was never Minnesota, barely ever. Basically, I grew up that way because of my dad. My dad was a Vikings fan.
Mhm.
So, you know how it was when you were a kid. You'd see
Mhm.
you'd watch the halftime shows and Sunday night, football, you'd get to watch 3 minutes of highlights and that was it.
Mhm.
But now we have Sunday ticket and it's a lot better. But yeah, so I mean, pretty much since I started like being getting into football, I just followed my dad's footsteps and now I got tattoos on me about him, so it's pretty hardcore.
Absolutely. Well, talking about being hardcore, obviously, the Vikings are, there's there are probably a lot of question marks, right? But
Uh-huh.
it
Fair.
seems like the team, I mean, has some interest, obviously, in Kirk Cousins extending him for this year, and it seems like he's such a polarizing figure. There are hardcore people on one side and hardcore people
Yes.
on the other side.
Very
Like,
much.
where are you at with Kirk
Okay,
Cousins?
so what is your opinion? What do you think? So you're a Bears fan, right? What do you
Mm-hmm.
think when you say? Because I've had conversations. Bears fans are like, Cousins sucks. I'm so glad you guys signed him in. Are you one of those guys, or are you like Cousins is pretty good, or I'm nobody ever says he's great. Like I get that, but what? How do you feel about them? About him?
Well, obviously as a Bears fan, I'm glad that especially where we're at, that we have Justin Fields, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Cousins, his head and shoulders would have been better than any other quarterback, even better than Cutler, in the past. So really, especially with the year that Cousins was having last year, I mean, he's able to do that, obviously in the regular season. So I like him. I don't.
You don't love. No one loves him. I get that. Like
Yes,
I understand that.
and it is so interesting. It is kind of like a Jay Cutler comp there, because I mean, when he was with the Bears, there were people that loved him and hated him because of all the picks that he would throw, and he didn't
Yeah.
care. And Cousins almost like he doesn't care necessarily either. I mean. He's got his own, shtick, the you like that shtick, so I
Yeah.
I do like him. I don't love him.
Okay, that's fair. So you're right. It seems to be, all I can go off of is the Viking. I'm a Vikings Twitter, and it's
Mhm.
either you hate him and you think he's the worst quarterback ever, which I don't understand at all. Like
Mm.
I cannot process that. How you can think he's a terrible quarterback because he's not.
Right.
Um, do I think he's elite like some of the guys? No, I don't. I think he's in the 10 to 12 range. I think he's right after those, like the Joe Burrows, Herberts, Mahomes. Obviously those guys are up there. And then you get to like the Staffords. I think he's just as good as Stafford. Yeah, I think he's probably
Mm.
better than Stafford, in my opinion.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
think about last year before Stafford was there. Would anybody say
Yeah.
he was great? No.
Mm-mm.
But you put him on a great team with a great offensive mind that puts him in the right situations, and they have a good defense around him. And I always knew. I don't know about you. You guys played the Detroit a lot, so you saw him a lot. I
Oh
always
yeah.
thought Stafford was great. I thought he was
Mhm.
so good, but Detroit was just bad. Like there were so many times where they get the ball, and I'm like, Stafford's going to do something, especially when they had
Mhm.
Calvin Johnson.
Oh yes.
Yeah, they just knew they were going to make a play. To me, he's right under, like I said, those elite guys, right on the Staffords, in the middle tier where you can win. People that say he can't win a Super Bowl with Cousins, I think you're absolutely lying to yourself. If Stafford can win a Super Bowl, there's no reason Cousins can't. He's just as good. He's just as
Mhm.
talented. So about the extension, I'm fine with it. I'm happy with it because I don't think that you can draft someone probably yet that's better. I know he makes a lot of money. All these guys make money. That doesn't bother me.
Mhm.
Um, so I love Cousins. Would I like to in the future draft somebody to possibly be the Josh Allen, the Mahomes, those Burrows guys? Yeah, I do. I mean, I think we all want that. Like you got Fields, I'm sure you're excited about him. I personally don't like Fields, but
Mhm.
if I had him, I'd be excited to see what he could do. But I want something like that. But for now, until we can get something better, I don't see how you can just want to toss this guy to the side like he's garbage because I just think that's completely false.
Absolutely. And here's I guess I have a question for you. So when you think of like, and maybe this is the difference between, Cousins and Fields. Yeah, obviously, I mean, you may have your stuff on Fields where you don't think he may be good, but there's at least potential there, and we don't
Mm-hmm.
know yet what Fields is going to be.
You're right.
With Cousins, it almost seems like he's already hit his ceiling,
I agree with that.
and a lot of it's the kind of, wins and losses or whatever. I mean, he was, statistically having an amazing season last year, wasn't he?
So he was great. He doesn't throw a lot of interceptions.
Mm-hmm.
So if you watch the games, the defense was so bad. The last 2 years it's been terrible. There were so many times whenever he put us in the position to win late in the game,
Mm-hmm.
and the defense would just give it right back up. And it's like, what more do
Mm-hmm.
you want this guy to do? Like he literally drove you down the field, scored with a minute and a half left, and your defense gave up a touchdown right back. Like, is he supposed to play defense? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I think about the game against the Packers at home. They score. He gets hit in his mouth, throws a touchdown to Justin Jefferson with 2 minutes and 15 seconds left. Rodgers throws a touchdown in one play.
Mm-hmm.
What is he supposed to do? So he
Yes.
drove him back down again and scored got a late field goal to win. But it's like that happened all year. They lost to Detroit,
Mm-hmm.
with where they're winning, and the defense is
Mm-hmm.
8 yards in the end zone on a fourth and goal. What are you doing there? Like it happened
Mm-hmm.
all year long. I think they had the most um, one score losses in the league last year. I think all of but one or two of their games were one score. So they're in every game. Cousins was putting them in position. And you can say, yeah, maybe they should have scored more points at some point. Okay, maybe, but they still averaged, I don't know what they were, but they were still very good. I just feel like putting it on Cousins is wrong. If you watch the games, you know that.
Mm-hmm.
But someone's going to get the blame. It's always the quarterback. It's like, well, he should have done more in the first half. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, dude, even Mahomes isn't perfect. Like, what do you want? What do
Mm-hmm.
you want? So that's how I feel about him.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is interesting. We bring up like, Stafford. He almost is like in that mode right now because Stafford was doing the exact same thing, and he couldn't play defense when he was with the Lions, and
Exactly.
and so that's interesting. So I looked up, and obviously this is from February. There was an NBC out of Boston had ranked the quarterbacks, obviously before a lot of changes happened and whatnot. They ranked Kirk Cousins as 17.
God, it's low
And ahead of him, they have Jalen Hurts, Mac Jones, uh,
already.
Jimmy G,
That's terrible.
Matt Ryan,
Listen, if San Francisco had Jimmy G that Super Bowl, he makes that throw at the end and they win that Super Bowl, guaranteed. So,
yeah, yeah,
anyways, go ahead. Go ahead.
absolutely, yeah, yeah, and so like some of the other ones you can't argue, but that is an interesting
Yeah,
point
yeah,
there, and you brought up Mahomes. Obviously, with Mahomes, we're going to find out this year
yeah.
the difference having Tyreek Hill because Mahomes he gets the benefit of the doubt because he's done it before, right?
Exactly.
You
He
know,
won the Super Bowl. You can't take it away
mhm.
from him.
Yep.
I agree.
Honestly, too, and we talk about this in our NFC North podcast. Aaron Rodgers gets the benefit of the doubt as well because he's been
He
there,
does. Yeah.
and almost too much, in my opinion.
He's great, so I'm never gonna say anything bad about him. But you're right because he's only won one Super Bowl. Like he's not up there with
Mm-mm.
Mahomes already won one. Now who Stafford's got one. Like he's not
Mm-hmm.
anything. Yeah, I do think he's one of the best ever. He's awesome. Obviously, I'm sure he's killed your team. He's killed my team. But yeah, he's always gets the benefit of the doubt. So I can't believe they got rid of Adams. I'm happy about that. I'd like to see
Mm-hmm.
what's going to happen this year. So we'll see what we'll see. We'll see.
So it's funny on our podcast, and we did ours, last night, and uneducated takes Cooper, he's our Vikings guy, and he was kind of, just talking about the Vikings, and I'm him and Packer, our Packer person, everybody was, saying, okay, it is the Packers division, as long as is Aaron Rodgers there, and it's so weird as a Bears fan to be trying to make the Vikings happen. I think, yeah, because I think the Vikings are going to win this division this year.
I think if everything goes how it can, and
Mm-hmm.
if um if if Rodgers doesn't have anyone to throw to, which I mean I'm assuming they're gonna draft somebody. They're gonna come back down to earth a little bit. I think even
Mm-hmm.
as good as Rodgers is, they're not gonna be great. I think it's gonna be. I do think that the two best teams in the division. It'll come down to probably last week or two of the season. At least that's what I'm hoping. I
Mm-hmm.
think we'll be solid. Um, we'll see what happens, but I like that someone else thinks that instead of just me.
Right, and I'm an honest Bears fan because I know that what the Bears are doing. They're tearing it down, and they need to because Ryan, Pace really, did
Yeah.
it horrible. All these horrible contracts for and just didn't. So thankfully we have Fields to at least try to build on, and I see a lot of positives there. But when you look at the Vikings, what are some of the needs that you see kind of targets and draft needs for them?
So I'm not a big draft guy. Like I don't know a lot of the players. I'm not. I admit that, but I
Mm-hmm.
mean I know our needs. Our needs are corner. We just re-signed
Mm-hmm.
Patrick Peterson, which is good. I mean he's not what he used to be, but
Mm-hmm.
he's a veteran. He's smart, and he's a body in there. We need corner. We need interior O line help, and I mean those are the two huge needs. And I would like to see them draft another receiver. I kind of
See,
want. Well, go ahead.
no, go ahead. Yeah.
I was gonna. So we really need a receiver, and there's a lot of guys up there at the top. I mean not just receiver, at the corner. Stingley and Sauce
Mm-hmm.
Gardner or something. And
Mm-hmm.
if we get one of those, that'd be great because we really, really need one. But if we don't get one of those guys, I would love to draft the best receiver and just say Jefferson, Thielen, whoever, Irv Smith, Dalvin Cook, stop us. If we're going to score all these points, you got to keep up, or good luck. Because if you can't stop, if you can't play defense, at least if you can play offense, it's like, you know
Yeah.
what? Let's roll it out there and see what happens. So I think that's one thing that could happen relatively early in the, especially with Thielen being older and his
Mm-hmm.
contract being huge. I could see them getting rid of him soon, anyways. But I mean, obviously, the need for the team is defensive back and interior offensive line.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk about the receiver. So I'm actually an Iowa guy, and I went to Iowa, and I actually did get a chance to take my kids to the historic last game of two regimes this past year. The Vikings beating the Bears in that last game, and Amir Smith Marset really had a game. I mean, does he have a place on this team, or is he just, I mean, when you look at the receivers in the draft, they're still a little bit better than he would be.
Yeah. So I mean, we took him at the fifth round. I mean, let's be real. The hit rate of those guys isn't great. He looked like he had some promise. I was excited to see. He did well. Um, he's probably more of like maybe he's a slot third guy, a third receiver. I don't know if he'll ever develop. Like again,
Mm-hmm.
that's not a thing against him. Late round receivers just very rarely hit to where they're
Mm-hmm.
superstars. But I
Mm-hmm.
can see him contributing and being a third guy in this offense and I really like KJ Osborne.
Mm-hmm.
He really stepped up last year in a big way. So we got some guys like we're gonna be okay.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can draft a stud, I mean, Garrett Wilson or a Burks or the Jameson Williams, I don't know who's ranked number one. I for fantasy, I know these guys' names, and I know
Mm-hmm.
that it's a good wide receiver draft, and maybe we just wait till the second round and grab one, and I'd be fine with that. But Amir Smith Marset was a nice little surprise there at the end of the season. He had some he made some plays, so
He
we'll
did,
see what
yeah.
happens with him.
And speaking of that, receiver wise, what are your thoughts on Adam Thielen's contract?
So I know he just restructured it. It's supposed to save about 5 million. That's probably just to sign some of these guys that we need now. I love Adam Thielen. He's really, really good. But he's 32. He makes a
Mm-hmm.
crap ton of money next year. It's supposed to make like I think over 21 million. Obviously, there's no way he hits that. Like I'm assuming this contract was there, and then next year they're gonna either restructure it again or he'll get cut or something. Because there's just no way. Um, he's been great for us for a long time, and it's just to the point of you can't play forever. That's just how the league is.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited for him to play. Have another. I think he's got a year or two left in him, and he was really good last year until he got hurt, unfortunately. So the contract itself, I don't know what to think of contracts. Like to me,
Mm-hmm.
guys are moving money around all the time.
Mm-hmm.
The Saints were what like $70 million upside down, and now they have
Yeah.
like cap room. Like how does that happen?
Yeah.
So when people get upset about contracts, I don't like. I'm not one of those guys. It's like, oh, we gave this guy all this money. You know what? Okay, we'll figure it out next year. They'll move more money around. Seems like it's easy to do nowadays. I don't
It
know.
does. Yeah.
But Thielen's a good player, and I'm glad he's back. So that's all I can say about that.
And that's a good story, obviously, with him being, Mankato State and all
Yeah.
that. And but he was, I mean, he was even good before Jefferson, came, and now,
Oh yeah,
I
he was
mean,
great. He's been great for a long time. So, but Jefferson's a superstar. So you gotta slide over when Superman comes in.
absolutely. Well, speaking of kind of, sliding over defensive wise, we had some good free agent signings so far. What are your thoughts on some of the Vikings free agent signings?
So Zadarius Smith is probably obviously the biggest name.
Mm-hmm.
I was excited for that. If he's healthy like he was the last couple of years, obviously he missed all last year. And you got Danielle Hunter coming back. I mean, is there a better like pass rushing duo? I don't know if there is in the league. You get a healthy Zadarius Smith and a healthy Danielle Hunter, and good luck. And we really missed that. Hunter was obviously out 2 years ago, and he only played a few games last year. So we've been missing a lot. Everson Griffin hasn't been the same. So we have really need a pass rush, and that's going to be a lot. Obviously, assuming they're both healthy. Um, and we signed Jordan Hicks. He's going to probably just replace Barr, which
Mm-hmm.
he's a good player. I don't know a lot about him, but I know he's a good player. We signed the Packers third corner Sullivan.
Mm-hmm.
I've read some pretty good things about him. Like he's a little bit sneaky, one of those sneaky, slot. He's a really good slot corner. So obviously, like I said, we need DB help. He signed a decent little contract. Hopefully, he can come in and help. Harrison Phillips got rid of Michael Pierce. I got a buddy who's a Bills fan. He's a big Bills fan. He was really disappointed that he lost him. He said he said we'll love him. He's a big good guy in the middle. So I'm excited to see. I'm not gonna lie. I was the defense was terrible last year,
Mm-hmm.
so it can't get any worse. Now we signed some players that hopefully, if everyone stays healthy, I'm excited to see what they can do. And you still got the draft to go, so it's still got some things going on.
Yeah, obviously we are before the draft, so we don't know, some of the other pieces that are going to happen, that are going to, come into place. When you look at Zadarius Smith, I think that's huge. And shout out to a fellow Packer podcaster, Average Cheese. He talked about the loss of Zadarius Smith and how he was a huge leadership guy. He would get in the ear hole of the players and on the defense and really kind of be that leader. And now the Packers are missing that.
Yeah.
And now the Vikings are getting that. So I think that'll be huge for your defense from what I hear.
Yeah, I'm excited for him. Obviously, I mean he's a stud. Assuming he's healthy, that's a big thing. But yeah, he wrecked us. I live in Tampa, obviously, and we
Mm-hmm.
went to the game right before the year before the pandemic. So it was in 19, I think, and
Mm-hmm.
the Monday night game, and he had like 3.5 sacks, and he was just all over us. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, obviously, I've watched him for the last couple of years with Green Bay, and he's a great player. So I'm really excited to see what he can bring, to the defense with hopefully he's healthy.
Speaking of health, my son actually had a great question. Dalvin Cook has been injured, quite a bit, in his career. How much will he bring in this new offense from what you're hearing?
You know what? I haven't heard the new coaching stuff talk about it a lot, but I know in St. Louis or not St. Louis, LA,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, to me, Cook's as good as anybody in the league.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, no, there's the McCaffreys and Jonathan Taylor, but you put Dalvin out there and he's healthy, he's as good as anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Running the ball, receiving the ball, he can do it all. He can block. So I have zero doubt. It doesn't scare nothing. He gets nicked up, and you pretty much just got to count on he's going to miss 2 or 3 games. It sucks. I'm a Florida State fan also, so I've dealt with this, his whole career. But
Yeah.
I was excited when he drafted him, and I'm still excited to him. The guy's a playmaker. There's not a lot of good, players like him, and I'm really excited to see what Kevin O'Connell can come up with him. I really expect a big year from him, to be honest.
It's so interesting too. I mean, he is, one of the best backs in the league. But even when Alexander Madison gets in, I mean, he still has some decent games too. I mean, a lot of that could have been the offense or offensive line, or I mean, how much longer is Madison going to be around?
I mean, I don't know if this is his final year or not. He's one of those guys that he's a good player, and when Dalvin's out, he does very well. I like him a lot. But like, are you going to re-sign a guy like that? Like, he's not a superstar. Probably not.
Mm.
So when his contract's up, he'll in for him, he'll probably want to go try to get a starting job, which he should,
Mm-hmm.
because he's good enough to do that. So that being said, I enjoy the 1-2 punch. He's a great replacement when Cook's out for a game or two.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's nice having someone that can step in and do well for you whenever Cook's out.
Well, yeah, and then you even have one of the late draft steals, Kenny. Was it Nwangu?
Nwangwu,
Yeah.
yes, he's really raw,
Mm-hmm.
but he's a playmaker. He's a kick returner. First of all, he should have made the Pro Bowl as a kick returner. He returned 2 last year. I did hear this from the special teams coach. I think there was an interview right when he came in, and I don't believe a lot of coach stuff, but I think they're going to try to get him the ball a little bit on offense. Obviously you have Dalvin, but someone's got to spell him every now and then, and if you can get him, in space, screens, whatever, 3, 5, 5 or 6 times a game, that's just a big play waiting to happen. Hopefully,
Mm-hmm.
so I am excited to see what he can do on offense. Yeah, if he gets a few chances.
Yeah, and with these offenses this now in the NFL, I feel like they're opening it up a little bit and just being more creative. I think, and
Hmm.
if you have a talent like that, you gotta
You got
use
to
them.
use it sometimes. You
Yep.
see, it's like when we had Patterson back in the day. I don't think we
Hmm.
used him right. He's not a traditional,
Yep.
receiver. Obviously, that's not what he is. Like he's not a great route runner. He's
Hmm.
not, going to go up there and moss you. But he's an athlete and he's a weapon. And this is what I call people like him. He's a weapon. You can put him in any different kind of situation, and he can excel. Yeah, he's not going to run. He's not going to be a 1,500-yard receiver. But look what he's doing in Atlanta. He had a great year last year. They put
Hmm.
him in the backfield. They give him a bunch of carries. They put him at receiver. He can do a lot of things. So some of these guys are just different. They're not traditional players. You give them the ball and just let them make a play. And I think Nwangu could be, not to Patterson's extent, but you never know.
Yeah. Well, that's why I mean the Bears didn't use him properly either, and that's why I like when some of these offenses are thinking outside the box. I mean, you have the talent. I mean, go ahead and use them. And
Hmm.
I guess speaking of playmaker, I did want to bring up what your thoughts are on new Bears offensive lineman Dakota Dozier. I mean, he really is a playmaker, right?
That guy, let me tell you, you could ask every Vikings
Oh yeah,
fan. We would have packed his bags. We wanted him off the team for years. So I hope you guys don't. I take that back. I hope you do use him, but for your sake, I hope you don't ever have to see him because he is bad, man. And I don't like to talk bad about players, but
yeah.
God, he was so awful. I don't
And
know
I
how
didn't
he got
even
a job.
Oh yeah, and I didn't even know this, but Cooper, Uneducated Takes, my co-host on the Freezing Four, he sent me the video of him tackling Kirk Cousins. I
Yes,
said,
yes,
I did
yeah,
not
man.
know, and so
It's
that's
there was
it.
he's bad. Like that's all. I can't even say anything else. He's bad. He's terrible. I don't know how he's getting paid. Like I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how he started any games in for the Vikings. And I know we had a battle line, but like you can't tell somebody better than that
Mm-mm.
guy. I don't know. So good
Well,
luck.
unless unless my Bears were throwing it for the first overall pick next
There
year,
you
which
go.
is possible.
Good old
Well,
Dakota Dish. That's funny.
Well, when you kind of look at the general managers and stuff, and obviously there was the talk on Twitter and everything that possibly Kwesi Adofo-Mensah was the second choice of the Vikings, and Ryan Poles was the first, and obviously the organization is going to say one way or the
Yeah.
other, and we got our guy and everything,
Hmm.
and so my question is, kind of as a podcaster, as a fan, what are your thoughts on what he's done so far, and are you kind of hopeful that he can kind of change things around there?
I am obviously it's early,
Mhm.
but I'm excited for what he can bring because it's different.
Mhm.
Probably same for you. Like you get a new guy
Mhm.
in, you're just hopeful. So I'm
Mhm.
hopeful. So he's made there's been a splash. I'd say Zadarius Thomas or Zadarius Smith is a splash, but
Mhm.
um, we didn't have a ton of money to work with, so there's not a lot he can do yet. It's I'm really excited about Kevin O'Connell. I really like that hiring.
Mhm.
I know there was a lot of the hardball stuff going on, but even when that was happening, I said, man, I even tweeted this right before it happened. The day before they brought him in, they said, Harbaugh's probably gonna get the job, and I was like, you know what? I'm excited for if we get Harbaugh because he's got a great track record. Great things will probably happen for a short period of time. Something bad is gonna
Mhm.
happen in 4 or 5 years, but
Yep.
for that 4 or 5 years, you're gonna probably be really, really good. And I was excited for that. But I feel like O'Connell can be. I like these new young guys. They got
Mhm.
new ideas and all that, and I was excited to get that in. I will never say anything bad about Mike Zimmer. He did great things. We went to the NFC Championship game in 17, and I really believe he turned the team around. We were in a bad spot before he came in. And he was just stubborn in his ways, and things wouldn't change. There's nothing you can do about that. So I love Mike Zimmer for that. But I'm excited for O'Connell for a new face, an offensive mind, and all that. And same with Kwesi. He's got that analytics background, which I'm excited to see how that would, maybe in the draft. I don't know what's going to happen, but like I said, it's early. I don't want. It's hard. It's too hard. It's too early for me to grade him yet. But I'm
Mhm.
excited for what's hopefully to come. He seems to be saying the right things. when I watch him, he looks smart. Like he knows what he's talking about. I want those guys running my team. Someone that's thinking, not just like Mike Zimmer would come in and he's got his old brain, and that is what it is. Like we've all got our ways that we're not going to change, but like I want this guy, and I'm not gonna. I feel like Kwesi's gonna think about things and be a little bit more articulate and smart about the things he makes. And I think O'Connell's going to be the same way on as a head coach. And I think they're going to work together well. And I'm excited to see what that will bring.
Yeah, Zimmer is. I mean, he was definitely kind of under that. Like, it seemed like old guard, like especially toward the end. He didn't care. Like
Yeah, at
from
all.
what I heard, I mean, he didn't even they had the offense and the defense, and it was kind of a rift there.
There was something going on. Who knows what was going on, but it was time for a change.
And with that, I mean, especially quarterback wise, I mean, you've got Cousins, right? But you got Kellen Mond there, and he was not interested in even seeing him at all, and he probably knew he was done, so he didn't really care anyway.
Yeah.
But I mean, does Mond have any potential to be a starter? I mean, he's just kind of like a backup.
See, I didn't like the Mond. I take that back. I didn't hate the Mond pick because every year, in my opinion, I think you should draft a quarterback every year. Yep. I don't care who. Like with the Patriots, how many times did they draft a backup to Brady, Garoppolo? I know there were a few others that they would trade later or just to have them. Like, what if they're good? So I wasn't mad about the Mond pick. Yeah, Zimmer was like not having it. But that's how Zimmer was. I go all the way back to 2015 when we had like Mike Wallace and Charles Johnson as our receivers. Diggs was a rookie. And again, I don't like to listen to like off-season talk too much because people. Have you ever heard someone say this guy sucks in training camp? No. All you hear is this guy's killing it, right? So I heard Stephon Diggs' name, and I heard it a lot. And I'm like, okay, cool. But again, he's a 5th-round pick, so I'm not expecting him to ball out. But oh, cool, he's killing the training camp, big deal. And I saw, I think he returned a punt for a touchdown or almost for a touchdown in like his first preseason game. So it got me. I'm like, all right, cool. But then he's inactive for the first month of the season. Comes in the first game that he plays and crushes, like has like a 100-yard game as like or close to it. I think it was 100 yards against Denver, who had a really good defense at the time. That's in their their prime. I think they had Aqib Talib, who was great, somebody else, and it's like, why is this guy on the field like at least active, at least not playing? Why did it take a month for it to happen? Same thing happened with Justin Jefferson 2 years ago. BC Johnson is starting over Justin Jefferson for 2 games. Why? I don't like that. It's like Zimmer's like, oh, I'm not going to play rookies. And to me, that's just a terrible mindset. Like, if the best players, you drafted them for a reason, right? Like, don't you want these guys to develop?
And you want to win, too.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if he's the best player in practice, why is he not on the field? Like, why is Charles Johnson playing over this guy? Like, are you kidding me? So, I'm not really sure where I'm going with it, where we started. But steer me back to where we were because I'm trying.
Yeah, well, I mean, as far as Kellen Mond and playing players and Zimmer just kind of like being stuck in that moment. It's like some of the college coaches that once upon a time didn't want to play freshmen.
Yeah. So I feel like mine was a project when he was drafted originally, anyways. So I mean, I feel like O'Connell, if there's anything there, he'll see it. You know what I mean? He was a former coach, former QB. So he'll get a chance more than he did before. And if there's anything there, I feel like he'll be able to bring it out of him or at least have that eye to see it. Will he ever be a starter? Again, it's one of those things where like 3rd-round picks, how often do they start? Yeah. There's the Russell Wilson and obviously we all know about Tom Brady and Dak, and it happens, but it's hard to have those expectations. Maybe he develops into a decent low-end starter at one point. I don't know. But yeah, he had no chance with Zimmer. None at all.
Right.
So who knows what's really there.
Well, and I'm sure the coaching staff had to kind of know and look and say, okay, well, we've got Cousins. Should we extend him or should we kind of, move on? And, obviously, I mean, kind of outside looking in, teams, have to evaluate where they're at in the process. In my opinion, the Vikings are not in, they would have never been in, tear down mode because they've got too many pieces. You got young Justin Jefferson still in a rookie contract. I mean, you got to, optimize that. If you got Kirk Cousins who can ball out, and, has a chance, I would argue that he's got as much of a chance as Aaron Rodgers, especially with the weapons around him. You got to do that. And, so Kellen Mond, obviously, they weren't even going to try to, think about having him this year.
Not yet. I agree with everything you just said. So my thinking, I wasn't sure how they were going to go. Were they going to tear it all down? And honest, I wouldn't have been completely against it, or do what they're doing. And with how close we were in all these games last year, what I'm thinking, Kwesi and O'Connell are thinking is, all we got to do is have better coaching, better situations, be better a little bit, and all those one score games go from a loss to a win. Not even all of them. You get, if we win, I don't know, half of them, we're in the playoffs. So the NFC is wide open to me. Like, I mean, who are you scared of in the NFC besides obviously Brady and the Bucks and probably the Rams? Does anybody else stand? I can't think of a team off the top. I mean, the Packers, I think, will be good. As long as Rodgers is there, I'm not going to count them out. And I'm sure there's another team I'm missing, but
I would totally agree. And I'm actually kind of one of my bold predictions is, that the Eagles are going to do really well and that Jalen Hurts is going to take the next step and be in the MVP conversation. But, obviously a lot of people aren't seeing that. I was kind of looking at some of his numbers from Alabama to this. And now, if they add another receiver, that's possible. But, it really is wide open. And so even the division is wide open. I mean, you look at,
I agree.
And we don't even know, what receivers are going to be around Rodgers and if he'll be able to trust them. And so, I mean, get in the playoffs, then especially on the
anything
NFC
can happen.
side, you're right. Exactly.
I agree. Did we really see the Rams going out? I mean, yeah, I thought they definitely had a chance, but I could have seen the Rams, the Bucks. I mean, the Packers. And I feel like it's the same way again this year. There's no dominant team that you're really, really scared of. I mean, I'd probably see the Bucks, but I mean, as long as you got Brady, you got to be scared of them. But they can be beaten,
especially if they don't have, a very good defensive backfield.
Yeah, they got issues, for sure. Obviously, me living in Tampa, I see, I talk to a lot of fans, all my friends are fans, so I know. But yeah, they just like last year, they can be beat. Brady's not perfect; he loses games, so anybody can be beat. And you know what? I see that basically that's what I'm assuming Kwesi and them are like, you know what? We're not that far away. Let's have a good draft. Let's sign a few guys. Let's play better. The situations that we're in. Let's not blow the game at the end, and we can be in the playoffs. And once that happens, let's go. Let's see what happens.
So that goes to my next question. How many miles are the Vikings away from the Super Bowl? You're in Tampa and Minneapolis is, I don't know how many miles away. That
long ways away.
Yeah. So I would probably argue, and I'm an honest Bears fan, I would say the Bears are probably from Tampa to probably Minneapolis away. I mean, we've got Fields, so it's a step. Anything can happen with a new coaching staff to at least take some positive steps. But we're not going to make the playoffs. How close to the Super Bowl are the Vikings right now?
Without being biased, because I am pretty biased. I'm always the optimistic guy. Because why? First of all, why do you want to be a fan that's just always negative? I'm excited for the season. There have been more seasons where I've been more excited. I'm excited. There's pieces there that really excite me. Justin Jefferson, I freaking love that guy. He's so good. I think Cousins is really good. I think the offense is going to be fine. Honestly, I think the defense, what you got to see, you got all these new pieces. You don't know what's going to happen. You got a new coach, you got a new scheme, you got the whole thing. That being said, being in the NFC, I think it's open. My biased opinion is they're not that far away. I don't know where I would rank them as far as NFC teams, but I think after, like I said, the Rams and the Bucks, they're right there. They could be. They could be right there. If things break their way and they play well, hopefully. How many miles would that be? I don't know how many miles would that be. I'm going to rank them for now. I'm going to rank them third, and I think that's being probably a little bit too optimistic, but that's how I am. I'm always the optimistic one, so I'm going to go for it.
Well, that's good. I mean, and I know you pay attention to Vikings Twitter. It is quite negative and quite entertaining at times. All of the different memes.
I'll be honest. I hate it. I hate it. I hate how negative Vikings Twitter really is. I just don't see why. Like I said, I don't see why you want to always be so negative and you want to hate Kirk Cousins and and I don't want to watch the team anymore for this. Like, first of all, stop. You're gonna watch the games on Sundays, so like just calm down. You're on Twitter arguing about it. You're gonna be watching the games on Sundays. So that being said,
Yes.
like, why do you want to be so negative? Like, there's definitely been years where I've been like less optimistic and all of that good stuff. And I will say I can usually tell. Like, I remember in '98, like I knew we were gonna be awesome. I remember it
Mm-hmm.
in and there's been years where I've been wrong, but like I knew that 2009 when Favre was coming, I'm like, we're gonna be good this year, man. Like we're really gonna be good, and we were. And the same thing in 17. Like I was, once we got going, although once Keenum, I never really trusted Case Keenum. So, but I knew we had a good team. We had a great defense, and this year, I'm not. I'm not saying we're going to the Super Bowl. I wouldn't say that, but I think we can be in the conversation for winning the division. And once you're in the playoffs, you know what? Like I said, let's go. Let's roll. Let's see what happens. Win the division, you get a home game. You're not that far from the Super Bowl, so let's go.
For all the Cousins haters, I mean, he's really probably, isn't he the best quarterback they've had since Favre?
Oh, easily. Well, easily since
Yeah.
Favre, and even before that, I mean, since Culpepper.
And Culpepper wasn't even that good, really.
Culpepper was like, I'm gonna throw the ball to Moss every time. I'm gonna throw it as far as I can, and Culpepper was awesome and fun to watch. He did a lot of good things, but he wasn't a great quarterback. He was a very good quarterback. And he just threw the ball. I don't blame him. I would throw him off too every single play. I mean, Moss is amazing. To me, he's the best player, best receiver ever. I know I'm biased, but he was so much fun to watch. Anyways, he's easily the best quarterback we've had, maybe really since Fran Tarkenton. If you want to be like, I mean, he's done everything you can. He just hasn't won enough games. That's why everyone hates him, and I understand that. So he's gonna get the hate until they win more games. He just will.
Yeah, it is interesting because quarterback is probably the most important position in the NFL, but it matters coaching as well. I mean, we saw that with Fields. We've seen that with different things. Coaching staffs can really mess up a quarterback, and so it'll be interesting to see what O'Connell does with Cousins, and I mean, Cousins is polarizing, I'm sure, because of the vaccination stuff and whatnot. But
that too. That didn't help. That didn't help at all.
But I mean, there were so many players that weren't saying anything, but they don't get as much attention.
Even like when Aaron Rodgers, that whole I'm what do you say? I'm I forget
immunized.
Immunized. There you go.
Yes.
And and then it came out that he ended up getting it, and everyone's like, "Whoa, what happened?" So that's political to me. That's just political people.
It is.
Which I hate. Like, I'm not getting involved in that. Like,
yep.
I don't care. Do what you want. Like, I'm not gonna hate you because you are vaxxed or non-vaxxed, or you're this side or that side. Like, can you play football? And I feel like he can. Like, that's all I care about. Like, so.
So that was the funny thing. Yeah, I mean, living here in Wisconsin, getting the stuff, especially the year before, with the drama and everything, and there's so many people like, oh, we don't need him. He's a drama queen. Let's move on. I'm like, be careful what you wish for.
Packers fans?
Oh yeah.
They have no idea what's coming once Rodgers is gone. None. They've been living in Favre and Rodgers land for way too long to even know what that means. So good luck, guys.
Absolutely. And as soon as I had several friends that were all out on him. We don't want him. We don't need him.
Wow, that's so dumb.
Well, right. And as soon as he got on the field and they were winning,
of course,
different.
Yeah, exactly.
And then that
in the offseason is different.
It is. It totally is. Well, yeah. And then so everything happened with that whole immunized thing, and people are like, oh, we don't like him because then he was out.
Yeah.
Back in, and we love him again. So
of course.
So I am so intrigued by this season with the Vikings, right? Kirk Cousins has such an opportunity to change the narrative, right? Like if he gets to the playoffs and wins 1-2 games, maybe gets the NFC Championship game, what will Vikings Twitter be like?
I think he'd have to win the Super Bowl for
really?
for the haters to come around, because they beat the Saints too. They beat the Saints. The Saints were 13-3 that year. We went into the dome, beat the Saints, and for that time, everything was great. The next week, we lose to San Francisco, who, by the way, went on to the Super Bowl, and he gets trashed again. So unless he goes to the Super Bowl, I feel like he's never gonna make those haters happy. The guys that love him like me are always going to be have his back, but the haters, I even some of the Vikings Twitter have said if the Vikings win the Super Bowl, the haters will find a reason to like blame something and still not be happy. Like I swear, like
Yeah.
when I scroll through Twitter and all I see is negative, 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 and it's like, how can you guys tweet this all day long? Just be like negative. Like is your life that bad? And I don't know. Like it's the off season. At least complain during the season. Like
So I did.
So.
I did have a chance to live in Minnesota for 10 years, and I
Okay.
got a chance. I lived in Mankato. I lived in different places, and so I obviously did go to the training camp there, and it is interesting. There's negativity right there as well, and it's until your team actually does wins the championship. I think there is kind of that angst or whatever.
I agree. And like I said, I feel like even if you won, we made the playoffs. We're 11-5 or whatever, 11, whatever the records are now, and they win a playoff game. That's going to be great. But they lose the next week, it's not going to matter again. But it's his fault again. It's always his fault. Like I said, even 2 years ago, we beat the Saints, who we were a huge underdog in that game, and he played awesome. He makes that throw to Thielen in overtime, a perfect, beautiful pass, throws the game-winning touchdown. Like, what do you want the guy to do? Like, the San Francisco was really good that year. Like, they beat a lot of teams. They beat a lot of really good teams, and you're not going to win them all, unfortunately. But that's why I feel like it's not going to be good enough unless he wins the Super Bowl, probably. So it is what it is.
Yeah, that's very true. Well, this has been fantastic. I definitely enjoy, talking football and especially in the division. So interesting to hear different perspectives. And where can everyone find you again?
I'm at I thought it showed on the screen. At Viking David or Dave 2018. I'm sorry. At Viking Dave 18 is my Twitter. At OUS Fantasy is our the fantasy football podcast. People ask me whatever you want. Listen, I don't like to gloat, but I'm pretty much the best fantasy player you've ever seen. It's in my Twitter bio, so it must be true.
I did see that. Yes.
And I'll say this because I joke around a lot, but like, if you don't believe in yourself, who else is going to believe in you?
It's true.
So I've been doing it long enough. I feel like, there's great people out there, and I won't take anything away from them, but I'll put myself against anybody. Ask me a fancy question. I'll try to help you out. And we can talk Vikings football whenever you want, all day long. So that's what I'm here for.
I guess I do have one last question as well. Do you, with your fantasy teams, do you pick Vikings players or do you stay away from that?
I try to be unbiased unbiased and make the best available player. But I mean, there's times where I'm like, I really want Justin Jefferson, or I really want Dalvin Cook. So I'll probably, if it's I'm not gonna like reach for a guy just because I'm like, oh, like let me take KJ Osborne. Like he's not gonna be fantasy relevant. Like I know that. So, but I sure, like everyone wants to root for your guy. If it's like between this guy or that guy and they're real close, then I'll take my guy. Sure.
Do you purposely not pick anybody within the division?
No, but my dad. I've been playing with my dad since I was a kid.
Yeah.
He will not draft anyone from the Bears, Lions, or Packers. And if he gets like auto drafted or something, he'll trade him. He'll cut him. Like he won't have. Wow. There's been times where I'm like, Dad, like do this, and he's like, no, he's a Packer. Oh, he's a Bear. And I'm like, I get it, but like just bench him that week if we're playing him. He's like, I can't root for him. Right. I get it. So, but so that my dad is like that, not me though.
That makes sense. Yeah. As a Bears fan, I haven't really picked a lot of Bears players because their offense has been terrible. So
Josh loves Montgomery, and I think he's pretty good too. So we'll see what happens with him. Fields has a lot of upside. Like I said, I wasn't a fan. This isn't had nothing to do with the Bears. He was great at Ohio State, but obviously I'm sure you heard the rumors where there was rumors the Vikings were going to trade up for him. I didn't want him because Ohio State quarterbacks always suck.
Yeah.
So I mean, listen, I know that one of these guys is going to break the mold. Maybe Stroud. Is it right? Stroud could be the guy. Like it's going to happen, sure. But I feel like some of these guys, some of these places have a track record, and it's like when you're playing all these average teams and you've got
Mhm.
NFL receivers everywhere
Mhm.
and they're always open, you're gonna look great. Now, again, there's
Mhm.
nothing against Fields. Like he might
Yeah.
be great. I don't know. That's just how like I was never all in like some people are. But I would obviously we played you guys twice. I think he only played the one game.
Mhm. Oh, yeah, I was hoping
Yeah.
I was hoping he was gonna play that last game because I was, seeing it in person, but
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, he had some flashes, and he's young, so we'll see what happens with him. But we'll
Yeah,
see.
he definitely has a lot to grow on, and it was interesting because I had friends last year in redraft leagues that were picking him. I'm like, no, he
Yeah,
just
not in a redraft probably. Well, I took him in. We had a super flex league.
oh, absolutely, yeah.
But other than that, yeah, like yeah, he was. But I think I saw that on Twitter too. Like people were like, when he gets the job, he's gonna click because of his rushing ability. And then in
Yes.
fantasy, rushing is all you can be an average quarterback, but if you can run the ball, like Trey Lance had a couple games where he was really good for fantasy when he played,
Mhm.
just because these guys run so much that Jalen Hurts isn't the best passer, but he runs a crap ton. Obviously Lamar he can throw for 3,200 yards. He's gonna
Mhm.
run for another 1,100. You know what I mean? So those the rushing is what everyone was hyped about. So I get that.
But a lot of it's on coaching too, and I just kind of knowing that the coaching
Yeah.
was. I mean, and you got to have a good line too,
Mhm.
and so there, I'm hopeful, for him for the future. Not necessarily this year. Obviously, it depends on the receivers too.
Yeah. So question: what
Yeah.
happened to Allen Robinson last year?
Well, that was the thing. So, like, he did not have a lot of, time in training camp with Fields. Fields did not get any snaps in training. It was just that was Nagy's, problem. He just didn't. He wasn't. No, this is my guy. Dalton's my
Hmm.
guy, and so he was stuck in the old ways, and
Hmm.
so he didn't get that. And part of what Justin Fields needs to grow at is knowing what open is, college
Yeah.
open, and
Yeah.
NFL open.
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, so Allen Robinson, he's not the one that's going to get. He's not going to get, doesn't get a lot of separation, right? And so, but I mean, he's a baller. He makes the catches and stuff, and but Fields wasn't hitting them and connected because he wasn't always you know,
College
he
open.
was
He was
right.
NFL open. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that was part of it. Mooney's not a number one wide receiver, so we'll have to see who they get as well.
I like that you said that because I
Mhm,
like Mooney. I think he's a really good player, but I don't
mhm.
think he's a number one. I think he's a really, really good, strong number two. And that I agree. I think they need to get in a number one in there.
Mhm. And so,
I
I
agree.
mean, in the draft, they're gonna need to do it. If they don't, I mean, it's kind of another year, but, it was crazy for our podcast, we did, the, best, especially because Mooney got 1,000 yards this year, the top, wide receiver years or all-time receiving yards, for Bears, and
Hmm.
on the list, all-time receiving yards, for receiving, right? Receiving is, I just wanna make sure to point that out, receiving, all-time
Yeah,
receiving list.
yeah.
Number 4 is Walter Payton.
On the all-time yards.
Receiving list, yes.
Yeah. Wow,
Yes.
I did not know that.
And
Wow, that's
Mike Ditka's up there too. It's
who's number
ridiculous.
one in the Bears history? Let me get.
It's someone you've never heard of. It's from, like, the
Oh,
50s.
really?
Yeah, it's
Oh, I was gonna say Curtis Conway. He had a few good years back then.
oh, yeah, it's not even that. Yeah. Yeah, so it's I mean, I have to go back and look at it, but it's ridiculous.
Wow, really?
And so, that's the thing, the Bears need receivers as well. I mean,
Yeah.
you had Brandon Marshall, he's up there, still not
Oh, why
quite.
would I not have thought about Marshall? Yeah,
Yeah.
he is he not? Well, he
He
went. This his a lot of his years were in Denver, and then well,
Mhm.
not a lot, but a few, and then he came to Chicago. So okay, I
Yeah,
could
yeah.
see. Yeah.
So it's I mean, Mooney is a great piece. They
Hmm.
definitely need someone else there, and you know, I doubt Olave is going to be there. When the Bears pick, but that would be a good. If he was able to get an Ohio State connection, that would be helpful.
What
But
about
someone
Komet? How much do you like him? See,
he has. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say. Well, I'm mostly thinking fantasy.
Yeah.
Um, people are really high on him, and I'm like,
Mm-mm.
I don't see it. I think he's a good like NFL player. Like he could be,
Mm-hmm.
a decent player and last
Mm-hmm.
for a while. But I
Yeah.
don't feel like he's ever gonna have like some kind of like great year. And when I
Mm-mm.
see him ranked high on fantasy lists, I'm like, I don't see that. So,
He
but I think he's a
he
good player.
Yeah, I mean, he would have to take a step up this year, which is possible,
Hmm.
but I just don't see him. It will make a difference now. I'd have to look if I believe Jimmy Graham's not going to be there. I believe he's gone, so that will help.
Hmm.
I think. But yeah, I mean, they Jasper Horsted they have, and it's just I don't think. Yeah, I'm not very high on him. We'll just say that.
Okay. Then I'm glad that I'm not alone because I've always thought he was at like okay, like he's an
Yes.
okay guy, like he's not, but he's nothing special. He's not gonna. Yeah, I think so too. Okay, so
Yeah, and
I'm not that far off.
yeah, and that was a reach in the draft. I mean, that was the problem. I mean, Ryan, Pace had some good hits in the draft, but I mean, there's just some really big reaches, and that was a big
Yeah.
thing too. Like within I mean, that's the story within draft night when they were picking Mitchell Trubisky. He looked around and he said, "Oh, you had him number one, right? You had him number one." Everyone he was
No,
asking
did he
everybody,
really?
yeah,
I
and
didn't hear
so
that story.
and he was not very good with confrontation. He avoided confrontation,
Wow.
and so you hear all these stories after he's fired and later
Yeah,
on
yeah, of
now. And
course.
so I like where the Bears are, with their front office with Ryan Poles, and now also having a second assistant GM, just to kind of run the football operations, because a lot of it was on the money side. The owner, they just was not run very well. So I like where they're going with it,
Hmm.
and so I'm hopeful that way, but I'm also
Yeah,
realistic. Like I'm not negative to say, oh, the Bears stink. I just like, well, they're not very good yet.
I see. That's how I am. It's like, you
Yes.
know what? It may be a year. Sometimes you got to strip it down before you can go back
Yep.
up. And it's
Absolutely.
honestly, that's why if the Vikings would have done it this offseason, I would have not hated it
Right.
because you could go either way. And sometimes it has to be done, to be honest.
Hmm.
So I get that. I get what you're saying. I
Absolutely.
got it.
Well, yeah, once again, this has been a blast. So I appreciate your time, and we'll definitely connect again when it comes
Absolutely.
time to the season, and would love to have you guesting on our NFC North Friesen 4
I
pod
was
as
just gonna
well.
say I had a great time. If you guys ever need an NFC North guy on that show, let me know because I love talking
Hmm.
almost just as much as I love talking fantasy football. I love talking Vikings. I love
Hmm.
trashing Packers and stuff. So I love to come on. If you guys ever need someone, let me know. I would have no issue with that. So just let me know.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Thanks again,
Absolutely.
Viking Dave, and we'll talk again.
Thanks, man. Have a good one. Thank you for having me.